Okay, that's a circle. Now, this is also what we're going to draw now is a cylinder. And this is a cylinder laying down. Okay? A cylinder laying down in 1-point perspective, which means that first of all you want to have when you're starting out learning how to do this, it's best, this is 1-point perspective, make sure that that point is right behind, in the middle of that shape, and there's your vanishing point. So now you take these 2 points, this one and this one, and connect those. We could use a ruler and do that. And like that. Okay, now what we want to do is we want a depth of our cylinder that's laying down. And so in this case we'll use what you want when you're starting out. You can make it any length you want. So we'll just make it, let's say, about right here. Now you have to project, as you remember from construction drawing, you want to project the shape, the square shape as well, which is a good reference for you. So now you see what you have is basically what that's for is just to help you see that this is a simple 1-point perspective, rectangular shape, and then if you draw a circle in the front of it, you would simply project the circle in the back, and what it has to do is it has 1 point here, and that's pretty much it. And then you'll duplicate this curve from here, but you want to be rounding it and come in on a real nice round curve and blend into this line that you drew here. Now this is where this is a artistic license with a lot of these curves. Drafting people use templates to do this. But, you know, artists, what you're doing is you're just trying to get yourself a rough template that you can use through perspective to draw this fairly accurately yourself. Okay, now we have what looks like a cylinder laying on its side. But one thing is you say, well, do I see any of this down here? Well, you say, do I see this much? Or do I see this much? No, what you see is you must complete this circle. And if you can complete a fairly accurate circle like this, this is what you would see right here. So we'll strengthen these lines up just to show you what I mean. And we can draw this one a little darker, and then this top one, which was our original circle. That's called drawing through the object, and I can erase. I have my gum eraser here. It's probably not the best one because it's really soft. Here's my rubber eraser. I'll use that. And it's too big, and it crumbles a lot. Okay, there. So I got rid of that drawing through, and this is a fairly accurate circle. This is a little crooked here, but that's what that square is for, is to help you sight these things out, and you can straighten them out, you know, as you want to. Okay, so the next kind of circle is the one in your book, and we're going to talk about that one, which is right here. And this is 1-point perspective. Now this is also a 1-point perspective, but you're looking straight down at a laying down cylinder. This is what you would see at the top of a cylinder if the cylinder was standing up, kind of like a soup can or something. So to start out with that, you remember this one, that you have a baseline. I'm going to write that in for you. And we'll also have the same thing here. We'll have another baseline. So I'll just write that in here also. Now, we want to have another vanishing point here. So now your baseline goes directly to the vanishing point at the ends. And you know from our last, when we were working with those baselines and construction drawing, you know, you're building a rectangular shape first. Now, if you want to draw a circle in perspective, one tip I can give you is to make the depth about 1/2 of the width. And that's a pretty good guess. So you see what I'm doing with my pencil? I'm measuring here. This is about 1/2 of this length, this way. So it's about right there. Now, if you can refer to your book, you have one going this way. You can use a ruler in the front to measure the halfway point, okay, and mark it. And then take a straight ruler straight up to the vanishing point, and you'll get the back one. Then you can do a diagonals. And then, if you have the diagonals and you have this point, you can now do, and this is the middle of the receding plane. Now, if you do a horizontal line that is parallel to this one and this one, right through there, now that gives you this point. Now you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 points. So now with the 4 points, you see, you can draw an ellipse, and that ellipse or circle in perspective can only touch those points. It can't ride along the line, and it takes some practice. And mine's probably not going to be perfect. The one in the book's pretty perfect. What you're looking for, just like you did in lesson 1, way back there, is these negative shapes should be equal. This one and this one will be identical. This one and this one should be identical. And that way you can help to make a good circle in perspective. Now, you might say, well, why does this have to be in the middle? Let's try one. You can do these up here too as well. So let's try one that's off to the side. And we'll use the same vanishing point. I'll put it right here. I'm going to use the same size. So let me just make a mark here and there. There. There's your baseline. So now I have these 2 points. I go down to the vanishing point here and here. And then I said, well, this depth should be about 1/2 of that. So I'm guessing half's about that far. So I'm going to put that about right here. Okay, now you can still measure this. So if I used a ruler and found half of this, it's going to be about there. Now that it goes to this point. Then you can connect these diagonals. You'll notice in this one, as soon as I get this line in here, it's pretty close. And now we do another horizontal here. So your 4 points are here, here, and here, and here. Now drawing a circle in there gets a little distorted. That's going to be a little harder because as you go off to the edge, you're distorting. You see how it looks like it's a little lopsided? And none of these 4 negative shapes will be equal. But you can still do it, and this would basically be correct if you're looking up at a circle in 1-point perspective. Okay? So now let's move on to what's called a regular ellipse. I'm going to spell it here for you. Now I know we got to this We got to the ellipses a couple lessons ago, and it's just because we needed to get to them at that time. But in any event, this is where you're getting the idea of what these really are. Now, if you're on the eye line, okay, and you had something that was about this thick. Well, this is an ellipse right on the eye line, which is nothing, okay? As you go below the eye line, we could go above, but we'll just go below here without running into this other thing over here. You see, now I will have what's called foreshortening from this shape. So as I go down, and I'm just going to build a couple here. As I go down, what's going to happen is, first of all, an ellipse begins with a rectangle. So let's start with that. Now, a true ellipse, not a circle in perspective, is symmetrical on all four sides. I'll do one more. Anything that's not square is an ellipse. This was a square. This is a rectangle, although it's almost a square. First thing you want to do is find the middle. So I'm just going to guess, but the middles are really, you can measure these. This is not a perspective illustration. I'm just showing you that if your eye line was here, as things get lower, you'll see more of the tops of them. So what I'm going to illustrate here is actually this. So we're still marking you. Okay, so now we mark the middle of this one. Now an ellipse has two axes. It has the vertical and a horizontal. And these are more difficult to draw. They're perfectly symmetrical. And the idea is to only touch the points with the circle. And the more references you can put in there, like those crosshairs I put in the one above this, is better for you. Now this one is not it's not a circle, but it's getting pretty close, but it's not. These are generally labeled in degrees, they call it, when you use templates. Now, all four of these sides are all going to be equal. And these axes, if you were to draw an ellipse, or if you wanted to draw the top of the chair like this, what you would do is you would measure the height of this axis against the width. And then you would use that ratio to draw your square in order to draw the correct ellipse. Now, if this ellipse was, I guess, to enhance the illusion, let's take this and let's pretend this one, you're looking at it directly on the eye line, you don't see the top, and it's that thick. Well, that would mean this one, as the foreshortening starts to kick in, let's do a little shading here just so we can illustrate that. This one would probably be just a little narrower than that one because it's getting lower, and so you have that foreshortening to it. This one's quite a ways down, so I'm going to probably cut that in half again. And shade it so you can see that. This one, you may not hardly see it at all. I might just make the line a little darker, just to kind of complete the illusion for you that as you know, the sidewall can be foreshortened. On the line you can't see the top. As it gets farther down, you see more of the top. If you were to turn this over and go up, you're seeing the bottom. Okay, now the last thing we want to talk about with circles is two-point perspective circles. We have a couple exercises with that you'll be I'll talk to you about that when I get to that other part of the lecture. So right now, we want to have the closest corner, and we need a point. We're going to use this point over here. We'll use this vanishing point, and we'll use this one. We'll put our vertical line about here. Now, what we're going to do is we want it to go exactly over the horizon line. So I want these two to be even, because that's how the illustration is there. These are pretty even. So now I have my 2 points. That one goes to there, and this one goes over to there. Now you need the depth, and I said on the depth on a circle, the best thing when you're beginning is to take half of the height for a receding, any receding square, it'll be there. So again, now we can, this is closest corner, so you could measure that. This is half, so this is the middle of this way. The middle of the receding plane has to be an intersection of the diagonals. Since we're halfway right on the horizon line, all 3 of these will intersect. If we were a little above or a little below, it would not. Now you have another vertical line that goes through here, and you now have 1, 2, 3, 4 points to draw. And basically all this is this on its side. So I'm just going to quickly sketch this in. And you'll notice how the negative shapes are smaller on the back and larger on the front, but this one and this one are the same, and this one should be identical also. Now this cylinder is like this one, but it's 2-point perspective, so we need a depth on this one. So we're going to take a depth of, we'll just pick something. So we're going to go about here. So now what we have is I can reinforce this. What you have is a box in 2-point perspective, and you want to draw a cylinder inside of that. You did the front. To do the back, the side, you have to go from these points